Ladies and gentlemen, these times are perilous, and before we get into this massive amount of information, I need to request something of you. Please take 2 seconds and go download our free mobile app. The link is in the description box. We're being hit really hard on YouTube, and I do not know how much longer this channel will be alive. Those free mobile apps are the continuation of this YouTube channel and this show. Please take the time and download them. They are totally free to you. We have a lot to cover today. The first thing is the report I did this morning. Pawns in the game, the rise of communism, and how it leads to World War III. Communism is a force that can destroy morality, society, faith, and freedom, which is why it's the political system that the agents of the Illuminati will use to help foment World War III. What began in the 1800s became the 20th century's deadliest political ideology. In fact, altogether, communism was the world's greatest killer during that time. The political ideology responsible for the deaths of over 94 million people is still active today in China, Cuba, Laos, and North Korea. Although several countries still have communist parties and movements, and that also includes the USA. One can derive from the list above. There are only 5 countries that still have the communist political ideology in today's world, which is an enormous improvement from that of the 20th century, and to a great part the USA has helped eradicate communism from this world. However, the political ideology of communism still carries on, and one glance at history can aid us in understanding why it still keeps going, and how it will be used to foment a third and final world war. Communism is not allocated to the smallest and weakest of countries. Rather, it is the leading political ideology of the world's most powerful economy, China. In 2014, the communist nation of China overtook the USA as the world's largest economy, measured by PPP, or purchasing power parity, which grants the world's second largest country an enormous amount of both influence and strength in the global arena. When the populist Donald Trump took the White House, Chinese leaders exclaimed that they wanted to build a new world order and replace the USA, which further proved the reality that a world war must commence. China and the USA are in a dead heat to be the strongest nations on earth, but China had some help. In 2000, China was a pimple to the USA. In fact, their economy was only 12% of the size of the U.S. economy. But fast forward 14 years and the Chinese economy now dominates the USA. China was aided by the likes of Bill Clinton and other politically aligned individuals within the USA to create this scenario. While the U.S. was forced to simmer, China blazed, thus creating the further potential for war, or for what is formerly known as the Thucydides trap. The trap takes place when a rising power threatens to displace a ruling one. The most likely outcome is war. 12 of 16 cases in which this occurred in the past 500 years ended violently. Further on in this report, we have a video further proving this point and how even China is saying this, that they're going to try their best to avoid this trap and so on and so forth. We all know it's a bunch of crap, but you ought to come watch this video on the website. I'll leave the link in the description box. You don't want to miss this information. Now, according to the founder of the theory, cited by many different political mouthpieces, the only way to stop the war between China and the USA is to bend the arc of history. Well, upon bending the arc of history, our first stop is in the year 2000 and President Bill Clinton. May 24, 2000, Bill Clinton clinched what many believed would be the last great legislative victory of his presidency. That afternoon, the House of Representatives voted to award China permanent normal trade relations, effectively backing Beijing's long-in-the-making bid to join the World Trade Organization. "This is a good day for America," Clinton said afterward. "In 10 years from now, we'll look back on this day and be glad we did this. We will see that we have given ourselves a chance to build the kind of future we want." Things have not worked out quite as the 42nd president, quote, hoped. We know the plan. Normalizing trade with China set our rival on a path to becoming the industrial powerhouse the world knows today, decimating American factory towns in the process and upending old assumptions about how trade affects the economy. Thanks to a growing body of academic research, we're only just now beginning to understand the extent of the economic fallout, as well as the degree to which it has helped poison our politics. We can clearly see what's going on today as the result of what the cabal planned over a decade ago with the communist Chinese nation. But wait, we're still bending. And we're going to add another dynamic to the situation, North Korea. Korea was ruled by Japan from 1910 until the closing days of World War II. In August 1945, the Soviet Union declared war upon Japan as a result of an agreement with the U.S. and liberated Korea north of the 38th parallel. U.S. forces subsequently moved into the South. By 1948, as a product of the Cold War between the Soviet Union and the U.S., Korea was split into two regions with separate governments. Both governments claimed to be the legitimate government of all of Korea, and neither side accepted the border as permanent. The conflict escalated into open warfare when North Korean forces, supported by the Soviet Union and China, moved into the South on the 25th of June 1950. On that day, the UN Security Council recognized this North Korean act as invasion and called for an immediate ceasefire. On June 27th, the Security Council adopted S-Res 83, Complaint of Aggression upon the Republic of Korea, and decided the formation and dispatch of the UN forces in Korea. 21 countries of the United Nations eventually contributed to the UN force, with the U.S. providing 88% of the UN's military personnel. That was from Wikipedia. Within that brief explanation of the Korean War, yet another dynamic is mentioned, the Soviet Union. Both China and Russia supported North Korea then, and they do now. They still do today. China has had a long-lasting relationship with the North, just as Russia has, all of which at some point were communist nations. This alliance is still carrying on today and is still a situation that could cause World War III. History is repeating with the current Korean crisis today, and it could lead to the inevitable, a nuclear war. However, there is still more to this situation. With each occurrence, there are subtle yet obvious implications that a hidden yet powerful governing force pulled back the tides of a world war. Such can be explained by William Guy Carr, who was an English-born Canadian naval officer and an author. Carr, in his book, Pawns in the Game, expressed extreme concern regarding a certain organization that would cause a set of catastrophic events to unfold for their benefit and for ultimate control of the world. Carr exposed Albert Pike's agenda for the 3 world wars. Having been proved correct about 2 of the 3 world wars, the author explicitly states that an agent tour of the Illuminati would foment a global war for the 3rd occurrence. Now, for most of you, you've read Albert Pike's letter, or you've heard me say it, or something to that effect. We're just going to go over the World War III section. World War III is to be fomented by using the differences of the agent tour of the Illuminati to stir up between political Zionists and the leaders of the Muslim world. The war is to be directed in such a manner that Islam and political Zionism, including the State of Israel, will destroy themselves, while at the same time the remaining nations, once more divided against each other on this issue, will be forced to fight themselves into a state of complete exhaustion physically, mentally, spiritually, and economically. Can any unbiased and reasoning person deny that the intrigue now going on in the Near, Middle, and Far East isn't designed to accomplish this devilish purpose? As the pages of history peel back again and again, something very clear is emerging. The crises of today are nothing more than a devilish plot comprised by those who are members of the synagogue of Satan, stirred by the agent tour of the Illuminati. The stage must be set for a global war, the 3rd and final global war. Both the factions of Islam and atheistic communism are playing a role in fomenting the 3rd World War because of one region that connects it all, the Middle East. So why then should we concern ourselves with communism if the next war will be about the Middle East? While the general public has been led to believe that communism is a movement of the workers or the Soviets to destroy capitalism, pawns in the game and the red fog over America prove that both British and American intelligence officers obtained authentic documentary evidence which proved that internationalist capitalists operating through their international banking houses had financed both sides in every war and revolution fought since 1776. Those who today comprise the synagogue of Satan direct our governments, whom they hold in usury, to fight the wars and revolutions, so they further Pike's plan to bring the world to that stage of the conspiracy when atheistic communism and the whole of Christendom can be forced into an all-out war within each remaining nation, as well as on an international scale. Would you not say that that is going on today? The factions of atheistic communism and Christendom are active in several countries around the world today, in the modern world and especially in the USA. The vast divide between the two are at civil war levels, meaning that the agents of the Illuminati have perfectly placed crises all around the globe and within the USA to further divide and to further cause strife that could create the cataclysm of World War III within the remaining countries. The communist or atheistic communism so strongly resembles the liberal left, doesn't it? Now, of course, we have the conservative side, or the supposed other side, the Republican side, and I'm talking about the USA specifically. The division. There's no more talking. There is no more having a discussion or a disagreement. It is all-out fighting. That is what I'm talking about. They have built this. So are you going to feed it, or are you going to realize it? The intertwining. Currently, two main events on the world stage could lead to the inevitable: Syria and North Korea. All it takes is one wrong move, and things could get out of hand pretty quickly, as each country has quietly warned. But given the depiction by Albert Pike of World War III, how are the forces of communism and the Muslim world linked? Each takes place simultaneously. So while a massive crisis breaks in the Middle East, another breaks on the front of Christendom and atheistic communism. Carr's expose puts the pieces of the puzzle together and describes the current geopolitical structure ongoing today. The world stage is set. Rather than a single crisis leading to the World War III, there are in fact several crises that have led to this point, further dividing each nation on the issues at hand and further pulling world war to the foreground of the foreseeable future. While the political ideology of communism is being used to undermine the free market capitalism and subvert the cultures of the world, the antagonism in the Middle East is being used to further the cataclysmic event. Who said this was going to happen in the Middle East? Who said that Israel was going to play a massive role in all of this? Before Albert Pike and before William Guy Carr. The Bible. The Bible predicted the days of wars and rumors of wars. And friends, that's what we're living in right now. Rather than a direct correlation, Carr describes these events, the Middle Eastern crises and atheistic communism, as intertwined on the basis that both will be used to bring about the inevitable World War III. History has a way of repeating, especially when we ignore the obvious. History repeats. Now, furthermore, rather than eradicating communism from the world, the agents controlled its rise and its descent to allow for the subversion to create the revolutionaries that are active in today's culture, in today's society. The political ideology of communism is directly responsible for the opposition in the USA, the liberal left, whose tactics and strategies, especially economically, are all based in the political ideological structure of communism and socialism, but communism for obviously, what did Lenin say? Lenin said that the end result of socialism is communism. All right. Well, that was the report that I published today. I wanted to read that to you guys, but we have a lot more to go through, so stick with us. In the time of war, it would strongly appear as though a war with North Korea is coming. Just run through some of the headlines real quick. We have North Korea threatens a nuclear war ahead of Trump meeting with UN Security Council. That was on the April 22nd. You also have Pence cutting his Asia trip short and returns to focus, quote-unquote, on the critical Trump week. You also have all Senate, the entire Senate, being called to the White House for a North Korea briefing. The entire U.S. Senate has been invited to the White House for a briefing Wednesday on the North Korean situation amid escalating tensions over the country's missile tests and bellicose rhetoric. Now, you also have China today, who tested missiles on a new deadly destroyer ship near North Korea as it warns it's getting troops battle ready. To top that off, there's more. North Korea can perfect capabilities to strike the U.S. with nuclear missiles before Trump's second term, says official. The U.S. envoy warns North Korea not to give us a reason to fight with you. U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, warned North Korea on Monday not to give it a reason to have a fight with the communist nation amid heightened concern Pyongyang might carry out its sixth nuclear test. Today they actually could. Today and into tomorrow they actually could because, of course, it's the 25th in their time. Furthering, we have more. U.S. envoy warns of military action if North Korea attacks a military base or launches an ICBM. The U.S. could take military action against North Korea if the communist nation attacks a military base in the U.S. or allies or launches an intercontinental ballistic missile, U.S. Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley warned on Monday. Haley also warned the North not to give us a reason to fight with the country. We're not going to do anything unless he gives us a reason to do something. So our goal is to not start a fight, Haley said on NBC's Today in response to a question if the U.S. is seriously considering a preemptive strike against the North. Now, on the Japan Times, you have U.S. may strike North Korea if it attacks base or test ICBM or a nuke. Those are the headlines for today. But in a time of war, we have a special thing set up for it on the website. If a time in the near future when war breaks out, you can go to christiantruther.com/wartime. That page is specifically set up for wartime, when the U.S. is in war. I'm going to update that to the best of my ability, of course, when we are in a war. But for that, you guys have seen the headlines. I don't think I'm going to go into each article. They're kind of self-explanatory. Obviously, there's a lot taking place with this right now. We also have a potential government shutdown going on this week, a partial government shutdown. And who knows what's going to come from that. But we need your support as we continue this fight against the mainstream media, against the establishment, and against fake news. We need your support. Please subscribe to the website for $1.50 per month right now. The discount code's in the description box. And get access to all of our exclusive unlimited content. Your subscriptions are how we're keeping going right now. So please, if you can, support us. That's all I've got for you. God bless and carry on.